Okay.
Lovely. So, good morning. Today we have a guest with us. We have Angela Letizier, and we have Wise Women Danielle on the sofa with me, Karen Dodd.
Morning.
Good morning from Wise Women Weekdays. So the idea of this channel, as I was just explaining to Angela, is really just to talk about anything and everything that women talk about, which is quite a lot, basically. And if you're watching this channel and you like it and you have any comments, please put the comments in, or if there's a subject that you would like us to discuss, put that in the comment box, and we'll get onto that subject. And as we go live, we can interact with you guys if you have questions. So today Danielle is going to talk to us about hormones and HRT, because Angela was saying a while ago that she was considering going on to HRT. I've gone through the change of life. That's what they used to call it, isn't it? The change of life now. And I didn't take HRT. And now I'm wondering if maybe I should, because talking to other ladies, some people are saying how beneficial it is. Some people saying stay away, because there's also different forms of HRTs, isn't there? I think hormone replacement therapy, for those of you that don't understand what that is. So Danielle, would you just like to tell us a little bit about your background and how you have this information to give us?
Thank you, Karen. Hi, ladies and gents. So I grew up in a very health-focused environment. My father was a very innovative cancer specialist, Dr. Yan. And I spent the first, 20 years of my adult life working in his clinic. So I learned masses from him. I wrote 3 health books. His focus really was on cancer prevention through lifestyle change, but also cancer resolution through lifestyle change. And he was incredibly successful, and I learned masses from him.
So is that kind of what put you into the field of beauty and health? Because you'd seen how he transformed people's lives. I guess.
In a nutshell, I learned from him how nutrition can protect us from degenerative disease and can dramatically reduce our risk of cancer, combined with lifestyle, combined with, a sensible, healthy lifestyle, and avoiding too much alcohol and avoiding too many toxins. And then I can use that knowledge to set up my own beauty company, which was decades ago, because nutrition is also incredibly important for skin health, skin density, skin smoothness, for glossy hair, for bright eyes, all that stuff.
All the things that the girls like.
All the things that the girls and the boys
like.
Yes. And then more, so I've done that for over 20 years internationally.
Yeah.
And then more recently, I studied holistic health, because I want to try and be useful in a more important way, because beauty is lovely and skincare is wonderful, but it's more nice to have. Whereas feeling great or feeling healthy,
so to be going beyond skin deep, really, isn't it?
So I studied for a few years. I studied with a few amazing European doctors, and I'm now qualified in holistic health, and I'm very interested in hormones.
Wonderful. Hence, I thought let's invite Angela on board. So, Angela, I mean, what's your journey? What is your main thing? Is it a question as to, are you going to take HRT, or are you on it, or is it just a general, inquiry, I should say?
No, just a general inquiry, really. I'm 46. All of my friends my age, they're all taking HRT. I'm not even sure if some of them are actually going through the menopause, but they've obviously found some hormonal changes, gone straight to their doctor, been put on it. And I'm kind of feeling like, which I quite like, the odd one out. But I had polycystic ovaries diagnosed from a very young age. So I didn't get a period till I was nearly 16 years old. And at the age of 14 and a half, 15, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovaries. Through that, during my teenage years, I didn't often have periods. I was told it was very unlikely I could naturally have a child. I'd need extra help, etc., etc. So I'm also wondering how that condition would play a part in going through the menopause as well. Would it be a case because I started my periods much later that I wouldn't potentially get to that stage till much later, and how it really worked?
Right. Well, I have quite an alternative view, which
You can either look
I love
into
an alternative view, so that's good with me. And I must say, actually, I funnily enough, after the birth of my daughter, everything settled. I had regular periods, and I have done ever since.
That's wonderful. That's great.
Because I was just saying, while we were making tea in the kitchen, Angela, and this is quite interesting, when I had my first child, and I think I was quite late, I think I was in my 30s, which nowadays, I don't know if that's late or not, they call it what's it when you're old? There's a name for it, isn't it? When you have children when you're older. I can't remember what the name is. It's not very complimentary.
No, it's not. Yeah, I know.
Do you know what that name is? That term?
It's something like elderly mother, isn't it? It's a term for being an elderly parent,
mother or something.
It's something really, yeah, derogatory.
No, because I remember when I was pregnant, somebody I was working with, a young lad, was calling me this, gave me this name, and I thought, God, I'm only in my 30s. It's half my life ago. But when I decided to have a child, he came very quickly. You know, he said, let's have a baby. Got married. I want a baby, and the baby came. And sadly, I had to have a cesarean. I was trying to have like a natural home birth with water birth, and with dolphin music and homeopathic stuff. It didn't go according to plan because he was back to back and I didn't dilate. But anyway, we had the baby and that was fine. So when I wanted my second baby, I kind of looked at my diary and I thought, I conceived so quickly the first time. I want to give birth on this day because it's going to be very convenient. And nothing happened. Nothing happened for 2 years. I couldn't conceive. So I went to the doctor and they were going to put me on hormone replacement or fertility treatment or whatever it was to try and, induce the baby. And something told me not to do that. And I said, well, I'm just going to pause and try and find something out myself. So I went to an alternative and I went to a lady called Dr. Marilyn Glenville, who actually had a practice here in Sussex where we are. And she did a hair test and hair analysis for myself and my then husband. And on that analysis, she told us what we were deficient in. So the main thing was like selenium, zinc. I can't remember the others because it's a while ago. And then obviously to do like a major detox, don't have alcohol, don't have dairy, lay off the meat, eat lots of fruit and vegetables, all those kind of things that we know. And she said, if you follow that program, you will be pregnant within 3 months. And the second month I was pregnant. And I was just stunned. And I have seen her subsequently because she also runs menopause clinics as such. And she's quite well known now. And I think she has clinics all over the place. Luckily, her son has a shop locally. But I then realized how important it is to not necessarily follow what the doctor says, because I'm not saying the doctors are wrong, but there are alternative ways to get to where you want to go, which aren't quite so invasive. So
I'm very glad you gave that example, because our hormone levels are a function of how we live and how we look after ourselves and how we eat. And if somebody has a healthy diet where basically you don't smoke, you drink very little alcohol, you eat mainly vegetables and organic foods, and above all, I will talk about the main hormonal toxins, but you avoid sleeping in Wi-Fi, for example.
Right.
There's more things you need to avoid. But if you avoid all that, our body is designed to have optimum hormone levels up to the age of 120. A woman.
Wow, 120.
Yes.
I'm only halfway there.
You see, all the time in the world.
Oh gosh, another 60 years. Oh.
So the classic signs of menopause: hot flush, weight gain, then dry skin, exhaustion. All of that is, the question is, you have to ask yourself, or a inquisitive doctor, I believe, should ask themselves, why is this happening? And in the experience of the people I have worked with, and also my own experience, it's usually linked to environmental factors. Things like, you're not eating enough minerals, so you're very depleted in zinc, you're very depleted in selenium, so your body needs those to produce hormones properly, for example. You have Wi-Fi on all the time. A woman will have her mobile phone in her breast pocket, get breast cancer. You eat masses of conventional grains, things that are laced with glyphosate and all these endocrine disrupting hormones and chemicals, which are found in supermarkets. So you can't buy supermarket food these days without food that's been heavily sprayed with herbicides. And the herbicides
damage, again, our mitochondria that are responsible for producing our hormones. So all hormones are actually produced in the mitochondria. So I don't want to give a science lecture.
No.
But in a nutshell, it's really important to find out why your hormones are out of whack, what it is that makes them out of whack, before you just say, oh, she's low in progesterone, so let's just give her HRT progesterone, or she's low in estrogen, so let's just give her HRT there. Because if you don't know the reasons why, it may not work very well, or it'll work really well in the short term, but then the longer term, doing such a therapy without looking for the causes of the low hormones, which very often are things like blocked hormone receptors, that's a terribly common one, through the toxins in our environment. If you don't clear that up, taking the HRT over years can dramatically increase somebody's risk of degenerative disease, be it cancer or something else. Whereas there are super healthy ways of balancing your hormone levels, even when you're in the years, around menopause.
It's fascinating. So when it's said like that, it's kind of quite straightforward and quite simple.
It is,
isn't
actually.
it? It's just like following your health. So Angela, with your friends, I mean, how come most of them have just gone down that route of HRT, even if they haven't got menopausal signs, as I think you implied?
Well, I think depends what you class as menopausal signs. So obviously they believe that they're they've been putting on weight, especially in the middle, hot flushes and not sleeping too well, but sort of no change in periods, and that's the first thing that the doctor will now go to prescribe. Like you were saying earlier, I mean, I'm a firm believer in, if there is something wrong, you have got some symptoms of something, other alternative therapies should be looked into. There's obviously something missing in your body, something lacking in your body. I mean, I was put on the pill by my doctor when I was 14 years old because I had the polycystic ovaries, which, really young age. And I didn't come off them until I started to want to have a family myself.
I don't know if you can hear me. What was your diet like as a teenager? What kind of things did you eat?
Oh, I was a terrible eater, really terrible eater. So I would, I never really enjoyed food from a very young age. I was always very thin. My mum would actually, funnily enough, actually, it's starting to make sense now. It's just a simple question, isn't it? But my mum would, I would say to my mum, I'm not eating anything unless you get me a McDonald's. And if you got me a McDonald's, then I'll eat. And my mum just wanted me to eat so badly. She wanted me to eat anything, and I'd happily eat that. So yeah, probably not the best diet. I loved sugar, so I love chocolate. All the things now which I don't put in my body. Well, I mean, I eat chocolate, but not to the extent that I did when I was young. I don't eat junk food anymore, all of these things. But yeah, I suppose my diet was not great.
And a second very personal question. Did you, when your period started, did you use tampons?
Probably from the age of 16.
You did?
Yeah.
Because they are, I mean, this is the reason I ask is, before I get to your diet, it's a very important thing for all women, and especially young women, to know. Tampons are made principally of cotton, and cotton is the most toxic farmed vegetable, or let's say produce material, that we put into or onto our bodies that you can possibly imagine. It's sprayed literally, 50 times between planting and harvest. So it's saturated with various herbicides, pesticides, farming chemicals, principally glyphosate, but lots of others as well, that are all linked to cancer, to hormonal damage, to mitochondrial damage, you name it, they're linked to it. And so if you stick that into a very sensitive and absorbent part of your body regularly, you will absorb those chemicals in your uterine area, and that in itself can lead to polycystic ovarian issues. That in
Wow.
itself.
Used to, because I remember when I was using tampons, they halfway through the period that I was using them, there would be a warning, wouldn't there? Toxic shock syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, at the beginning, I never saw that, and then
Yes.
out of the blue, like 10 years
Yeah.
in, I thought, what's all this about?
And some girls reacted in an absolute whole body shock. But if you combine that with eating mass market food and chocolate and lots of sugar, which all again contain lots of chemicals and disrupt our hormones. So, for example, sugar obviously requires a very strong insulin response in our bodies, and progesterone, which is a very important sex hormone, very important hormone, cannot exist at a reasonable level in the presence of high levels of insulin. So if you keep eating lots of sugar or lots of processed grains, things that raise our insulin all the time, by definition, our progesterone will be far too low. And you need that for a healthy female reproductive system. Progesterone is incredibly important. So just those two things you've told me would explain why you had your polycystic ovarian issues.
That's really interesting, and it's really nice hearing this, because I've got a 14-year-old daughter who started her periods quite early. She's not been using tampons, so that's great. But there will be a time, because she's extremely sporty, so she plays sports 6 times a week, that might come into the conversation. So yeah, that's interesting.
I know there are suppliers nowadays that sell organic ones. So if you a really good organic tampon from places like Germany or Austria, where organic is more likely to mean without chemicals, as opposed to EU regulations that allow us as organics to use certain chemicals. If you could buy tampons that are much cleaner.
And what about, I don't know if it's everybody's favorite, but these days you can get those little cups, can't you, for periods?
I think if they're made of something that's clean and non-chemical, I think that would be fine.
Right, yeah. Although I guess until you get the hang of it, it could be a little bit messy.
I don't know.
But
I think you need to get the hang of it. I've tried those. I didn't get on with them, but it's something. But some people do, so you know.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been my cup of tea for sure, but I'm not a vampire, I guess. So that's really interesting. I would also interject here about what you're saying, exactly what you're saying, because when I had my menopause, I was waiting for it, and the perimenopause, because the perimenopause is like up to 10 years before, I believe, isn't it? And you start getting all the symptoms. I was saying, oh, you know.
Oh, bless. I'm so glad you just said that, Karen, because I apologize if many people watching this won't like what I'm about to say, but hot flushes, weight gain, all the horrible signs of the menopause are not natural signs of menopause. They are natural signs of somebody going through those menopausal years who either has a diet with far too many sugars and grains, or somebody who's exposed to masses of Wi-Fi and electromagnetic radiation.
Wow.
Or somebody who, through their lifestyle, and it's definitely not their fault at all, it's just bad luck, has been exposed to many heavy metals, been exposed to aluminium from the sky, from the air, to mercury in fillings, or to lead from petrol, or to cadmium from petrol, because lead used to be in our petrol. Now it's no longer in car fuel, but unfortunately lead is still in jet fuel, so it comes down from the sky bit by bit.
And it used to be in paint, didn't it?
Yes, exactly.
And cots and stuff like that.
And in pipes and things.
Yeah.
So all those signs of menopause are incredibly common nowadays, but they just mean that you haven't been able to have a truly clean body going through hormonal change. And if you have a truly clean body, normally, so well done, Karen, your periods will just stop.
I don't think it's clean now, because I can't get rid of the sugar. Well, that's my last price to go, my last one to go, but
you'll get there.
I'll get there. It's mind over matter as well, isn't it? You've got to be in that frame of mind.
And also you can be smart about it.
Yeah.
So you can eat bits of sugar, but just make sure that you take turmeric with it.
Yes.
Or you take berberine with it. Those two things, turmeric and berberine, help your body process sugar in an incredibly healthy way and stop the insulin spikes.
That's interesting. I take turmeric. So I've got osteoarthritis. So I don't know if you can see, my finger is bent. And it is now bone on bone here.
Wow.
From
Osteoarthritis. But I do, and that's what I was going to actually ask you. What about supplements? Do you take supplements? Because I feel these supplements have really helped what I've taken just to help with the inflammation.
So my approach would be twofold or threefold, you could say. First of all, go to some holistic doctor and check or talk with them. Are you exposed to too much man-made electromagnetic radiation? Because that makes everything in the body struggle to work at optimum levels. And of course, we can't completely avoid our exposure in today's world. But for example, when we sleep, we can switch off the Wi-Fi, we can turn off our mobile phones. If we're in a town where there are lots of houses with Wi-Fi or flats with Wi-Fi around us, we can sleep in a sleep canopy, so that when we're sleeping, we're protected, which allows the body to focus on regeneration when you're asleep, which is what Mother Nature intended. That's the first thing. The second thing would be test your levels, go somewhere where we can test your levels of the toxic metals, aluminium, lead, mercury, the most common ones. And if they are high, do a detox. Because again, for example, just all of them, but just aluminium is a very potent neurotoxin. And all our hormones, before I get to the osteoarthritis, all our hormones are made in mitochondria, in the mitochondria of our cells. And aluminium is a mitochondrial toxin. So you can't have normal hormone levels if you are aluminium toxic. But you can do a 2-month aluminium detox, and then your mitochondria will work better.
Yeah.
Or another common one, but again, I'll get into too much science. I mentioned it earlier, all these toxins and also the farming chemicals block hormone receptors. And it's all very well to take HRT, but if your insulin receptors are blocked, or if your thyroid hormone receptors are blocked, or a man's testosterone receptors are blocked, then you might mess things up by taking HRT. You'll feel a bit better in the short term, but then you have all this stuff going around your blood, but it's not getting into the cell. Whereas there's simple, natural ways. There's just a herb. There's a great herb. It's an Ayurvedic herb called Coleus that can clean up cellular hormone receptors. So so that it's not complicated. It's just maybe a tiny bit more multifaceted than just taking straight HRT. But as Karen mentioned, straight HRT, in my opinion, in my professional opinion, is fine, but it should be the last resort. You want to do the things that improve health first and allow your hormones to function normally again. And once you've done all of that, and you're all nice and clean, and you have the minerals you need, and your body you still don't have any testosterone in your cells, or that would be a guy, or as a woman, you don't have enough progesterone, then you can definitely look at HRT. But it's not the first step. It would be the last step after you've done the sensible, healthy things.
That's really interesting. Well, where you mentioned about the toxic metal testing, where would you find somewhere to go for that? I'd be really fascinated in that, and I'd actually be fascinated for myself and my child.
There are plenty of practitioners, myself included, that have a little kit called the Oligos Scan. And the Oligos Scan is based on the light emissions from our tissues. It's developed by a brilliant French physicist, and it measures your tissue levels of the most common heavy metals. So it's completely painless and it's non-invasive. We just put a probe against 4 points on your hand, and then a minute later you will get your readings, and it's been tested again and again against other, really complicated state-of-the-art heavy metal testing procedures. It's very accurate.
Yeah,
I love that idea. I absolutely love that idea. I've not heard about that. I mean, when I went 2 years ago, because I was in so much pain with my fingers, I was told by my specialist that I had osteoarthritis. It was starting to affect all my other fingers. One in particular was now bone on bone. And I said to him, he said, there's not a lot you can do about it. And I said, okay. I said, what about natural supplements? Is there anything that you think may help? And he said, as doctors, we are not here to prescribe things that aren't regulated by the medical board by. So unless it's painkillers you're looking for, anti-inflammatories, we can't give you any recommendations.
But that unfortunately is true. A conventional doctor is very limited in what he's supposed to recommend. So you can go to your doctor and get some good advice, but then it's helpful to also, in addition, go to a holistic practitioner who's not so restricted in what they're allowed to study and what they can learn, and see what a holistic practitioner would say. Because there is, so there are enzymes that help break down the debris, the cellular debris that is causing the inflammation in your joints, things like serrapeptase or nattokinase from soya, and they will help remove the dead tissue from around the joints, reducing the origin, the cause for the inflammation in the first place. Then you can take lots of really nice omega oils that improve dramatically the lubrication of the joints. And then you will take herbs, just like the turmeric you're already taking, that are naturally very anti-inflammatory. And you do it all together. And then maybe supplement with things like collagen, with glucosamine, with chondroitin, things that are key building blocks of hyaluronic acid, because the more hyaluronic acid you'll have in your joints, again, the more they will just flow. So it's a few steps, but you can, and also, again, you want to look at the origin. Maybe you are aluminium toxic, maybe you are lead toxic, and they lodged, unfortunately, in some joints, or maybe there were even some, it's possible, some bugs, because many people these days have Lyme disease.
Yeah.
And Lyme disease adores hyaluronic acid. If I love cappuccino, and that's my go-to junk beverage, Lyme spirochetes adore hyaluronic acid. So I have no idea if that would be your case or not. Let's say it's not, but with many people, joint pain and inflammation that the doctor will describe as osteoarthritis is nothing more than Lyme spirochetes living in their joints, feeding off the hyaluronic acid and causing massive inflammation and pain. So it's interesting to find the origin. And once you know the origin, then you can work in a very pragmatic way to try and resolve it.
Absolutely. I mean, for the last year, I've definitely made some changes, done some research. I don't use a microwave anymore in the house. We don't use the microwave, and just small things, lots of supplements, and eating more sort of whole foods, and I think for the overall health, including the menopause, that can only be a good thing.
Yes. Oh, totally. I mean, without getting into any science at all, just eating as many vegetables, organic if possible, you can get your hands on, and growing your own herbs, growing your own sage, your own parsley, your own coriander, your own basil, your own thyme, and eating masses of garlic, raw if possible, adding things like chilies and onions to your food, just those basic things, and really focusing on those things will give your body so many beneficial micronutrients. And I mean, sometimes you need to eat pumpkin seeds or pumpkin oil to get zinc, because we're all zinc deficient. Unless you're eating masses of grass-fed beef, it's hard to have enough zinc these days. But vegetables are still kind of one of the best foods.
And I think it does depend on where you get your vegetables.
Of course.
And also it depends on where you get your supplements.
Oh, because no, supplements definitely.
Well, there is a company that I've gone to, and I love this company. It's called the British Supplements, and even on the packaging, they're
very clean, aren't they?
Yeah, very clean. So they're not padded with all this stuff, and it's saying, like, you take responsibility for your own health. Because when we do go to the doctor, as Angela said, they're just saying we can't suggest this, that, and the other. They're only licensed to give you that.
They're incredibly well-meaning, and it's worth seeing them. But you have to be aware that they're only allowed to talk about certain things,
and also they're not educated in diet. It's probably changed now, but from my understanding, they had like half a day's tuition on what you put in your body. So when you go to the doctor because you've got a headache or you're bloated or whatever, they don't necessarily say, well, what's your diet like?
Exactly.
They look at the book and they say, well, we're going to prescribe you with these things. Yeah. So, and we can heal ourselves. It's really important that we start looking to heal ourselves.
Yes.
We used to in the old days, didn't we?
There's a great strength and freedom about increasing your own health knowledge a bit so that you can actually do things to heal yourself. So get advice, get information. But in the end, use your gut instinct to what works for you and try things out, obviously.
Because I think we know when I've binged on something sugary, it's great at the time, isn't it? But then you feel really not really clean.
Sluggish,
But
tired.
yeah, sluggish, tired. You know, you want to curl up and watch something rubbish on the TV, and you just don't feel good.
But on the other hand, we all love sweet things. So if you buy yourself some really nice soft dates, or if you can get hold of a little bit of honeycomb, which has an incredibly low GI. And is full of antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal micronutrients that are incredibly good for our health. So you can kind of just don't.
Well, also somebody just this weekend, I was at a friend's for the weekend, and they were cooking, and it was absolutely wonderful. And they were eating chicken, and I was eating my lentil bake, and which I love because I haven't eaten meat for a long time now. But something's pushing me towards going back to eating meat. And my friend Jane, she said, well, because you have this sweet tooth, I mean, I'm not crazy for it, you know, just I like sweet things. She said it's partly because you're not eating the protein from the meat. Because if you're eating protein from the meat, your body's taking longer to digest it, so you're feeling fuller. Whereas if you're not doing that, you go for the quick fix of a piece of chocolate, and then you're full. Well, you're not full, are you?
But you're satisfied.
You're satisfied. Yeah, exactly. So I'm actually considering going back to eating happy meat, because there is a hierarchy of meat. And I haven't eaten meat because I'm into cute and fluffy. And because I used to like the taste of meat, but I just thought, I can't eat that, you know, because it's an animal, it's got eyes and a heart and feelings. But there is, I think, the hierarchy of we're at the top of the food chain. And I think as long as the meat is coming from, you know, respected source that is honored for being the animal, not, you know, like the chickens and these battery hens and it's horrendous. So that's obviously a conversation for another day. But
it's absolutely. But I eat meat because I need it. But I will only eat 100% grass-fed beef. It's had a beautiful life, and occasionally a chicken that has had a glorious outdoor free-range happy life. And nothing that has been near a factory farm or been, you know, mistreated from day one.
Absolutely.
But we are, especially depending on your blood group, we are historically genetically omnivores, and our bodies find protein from animal foods very bioavailable and very easy to absorb. And the minerals, even though everything is mineral deficient these days, but the minerals in meat are also more bioavailable than in some, well, especially in supermarket veg, because it is so depleted. I mean, I heard a recent statistic that a carrot today contains only about 3% of the minerals it contained 100 years ago. Now, if you're growing it in your own backyard, you probably have more minerals. But if you buy it in the supermarket, that's what you're getting.
Well, there's lots of monocrop farming as well, isn't it? Which isn't healthy for those products.
That's really interesting what you said about the blood, your blood group, though, because I don't know if you can remember, but possibly around 20 years ago, there was this book, and it became really popular, and it was called Eat Right for Your Blood Type. And you know, it said, you know, certain blood types need meat, some, you know, don't need. And I always wondered whether that was a fad, but I know I crave meat, and like you said, I'm an animal lover. I currently have a blind, crazy, dumb rooster in my garden that I rescued. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the whole ethically sourced meat and everything, but I did wonder whether there was a correlation with the blood group.
My practical experience has made me believe there definitely is. So, for example, blood group A is more likely to be happy as a vegetarian. Blood group B usually craves meat. O's are they have more options. They kind of do more well on either. And ABs, again, I'm not so sure, but I do know about the A's and I do know about
the
B's.
I'm an A, and I prefer, I'm a vegetarian. That's really interesting.
Oh, sorry, it sounds, I don't know if you can hear me. The sounds, it's coming back.
Years ago, I had a session with a really good Indian doctor who worked in London. And he told me, without hesitation, given your body and your blood group, you need meat. I thought, okay, great. So, I and given the clients I see, I also agree. Some people do, some people don't, but none of us need masses. And all of us have a responsibility, in my opinion, to only buy from sources where the animals are looked after in an incredibly humane, respectful way. So even though, yes, we do kill them, it's at the end of a long and happy life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think if you look at indigenous tribes over the years, you know, when you look at the movies, one of my favorite movies is The Last of the Mohicans. And if you know the scene at the beginning, they're chasing a deer or something in the woods, and they get it and they kill it, but they honor it, you know, because it's there to serve that purpose. It's had its life, and now it's feeding us. And I think that's where we kind of need to go back to. But it's you know, again, it's not money in that, is there? There's money in quick farming and all that kind of stuff.
But also regarding soil bacteria, so you know, so much of the soil over the whole world today is dead because they spray it with all these chemicals that are needed to grow the genetically modified junk that's out there. And then after maybe 10 years or a little longer, the soil is depleted of everything. Nothing will grow there. It's completely dead. And having animals roaming the land and eating in places where there is still some good vegetation, and then basically pooping in the dead areas is the fastest way, according to absolute experts in the soil biodiversity, is the absolute best way of re-energizing and reinvigorating dead soil. So we need farm animals, not just, but they need to be able to wander over large areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it all works.
Yeah. Can I just go back a little bit? And I'm sorry if there's interruptions here, because my windows are being cleaned, and hence my dogs went bananas. And then but you know, we're raw. This is life, isn't it? So I don't edit any of these videos. They go out as they are. But when you talk, you've got a 14-year-old daughter, Angela. Yeah. So has she gone through that thing at school where they're invited to have, is it HPV or something, that injection for? Yeah. Has she had it? Has she gone through that?
No.
So what? So no. She chose not to have it. I think it's that age, isn't it? 13, 14.
If I'm really honest with you, I don't think it's their choice at that age. I think that's, you know, their children still at 14. Unless she had specific concerns and she really wanted to take it, and I'd try to educate her, and she'd listen to other people first and then made that decision, then potentially yes.
It's supposed to prevent uterus cancer, isn't it? If you have this,
it is supposed to prevent uterine cancer. Initially, when we got the letter through a year or so ago, I sort of sat down with Matthew and I said, I'm not sure about this. I think I'm going to let her have it. What do you think? And we discussed it, and we spoke to lots of health professionals, some with, you know, one view and some with another view, and we took what we wanted to out of it, and we made the decision, no. And we didn't feel at this stage it was necessary to do that.
Oh, so she didn't have it?
No.
I mean, personally, my daughter didn't have it, and she was only, her and her friend, there was only 2 of them at the whole school that chose not to. And I think it is a bit disconcerting, because I made that decision for her. As you say, at that age, they're not worldly experienced to really know what's going on. So I made that decision. But I was very upset because she actually got a letter directly addressed to herself saying, you can ignore what your mum and dad say, but if you want it, you can have it. And luckily, she's quite a wise person in her own right anyway, because we do discuss things. And I said, it is your choice. And she elected not to have it as well. But it was a little bit worrying that, you know, as a 14-year-old, I don't think they can get a library book.
She was being encouraged to go behind your back.
Yeah, she was. But so you can't get a library book unless you get your parents' permission, but you can take something as, you know, possibly damaging, possibly not. I don't know. But
I looked into that vaccine, the HPV vaccine, a little bit. And there's a wonderful American professor called Stephanie Seneff, who is a professor at MIT, and she's an expert on farming chemicals and various subjects. But she made a very interesting comment, I find. So before the vaccine, the HPV vaccine came out, HPV, which wasn't very common at all, it would usually affect women when they were over 50, was due to just 2 strains of the HPV virus, 1 or 2. whereas there are over 100 strains of that virus. But only 2, they were the dominant ones, and they occasionally, in older women, caused cervical cancer or ovarian cancer. And when they brought out the vaccine was against those 2 strains. Well, what happened? Because nature is infinite in its creativity and its ability to adapt, 2 of the other strains that had been minor, they hadn't been the dominant ones, because the 2 that used to cause the cancer were being blocked by the vaccine, they proliferated, and they then were associated with even more cases, or because there weren't very many at the beginning, of the cancer.
Yeah.
So the next generation of the HPV vaccine, instead of being against 2 strains, was against 9 strains. And you know what happened? Those 9 strains were all blocked by the vaccine, so none of them caused cancer anymore. But there are, according to our medical knowledge, around 100 that we know of. Goodness knows how many strains of them are that we don't know of. And again, 3 more came up, took over, and once again became responsible for causing cancers in young girls. And now it was young girls, it wasn't 50-year-olds anymore. So the more you study the actual history of this particular vaccine, the more it doesn't look very successful at all.
No,
and
I mean the problem is though, just like with the COVID vaccine though, with the HPV, if you do not give that to your child, you are made to feel like a leper. You are made to feel like an anti-vaxxer. I mean, before the COVID vaccines came around, we wouldn't have been twice at just signing the form and letting her have her whatever it was, her flu jab at school, her flu nasal spray at school, her HPV, her, but now we question, and I think it's good either way to question anyway. So
I think we need to question everything and anything, because we just assume there's always these people, if they're in a white coat and they've got a name doctor, you just assume that they've got our best interest at heart. Maybe they have, but they don't necessarily know everything themselves, do they? So it's up to us to do the research, and in everything, whether it's signing for a bank loan, for a mortgage, there's you look around, you don't necessarily go to to the first one that offers you something. So I think it's really important to be curious about absolutely everything and everybody.
To be curious. I mean, the next step or the next problem will be she's due to go on a school trip to Kenya in the summer, and she's been told, here are your list of recommended vaccinations that you must have, and for polio, make sure tetanus and diphtheria. Don't forget to take the anti-malaria tablets. You have to sign waivers, and that's really overwhelming to me, because at the moment I don't want her in anything in her body without knowing any risks, and do the risks outweigh the benefits? The benefits outweigh the risks. Are there more homeopathic or natural anti-malaria tablets, for example? Or so this is something I'll be doing some research on.
I think that's very, very wise, because you need to really, really do research these days, especially with those recommended travel inoculations, because there are alternatives, and it's not for me to give you advice one way or the other, apart from saying really do your research, and doctors are told what they have to tell you. So,
and there is money in it, to be honest, isn't there?
Yeah.
So I just throw that one in.
Yes, there is. And I also believe that there are very good alternatives for protecting your daughter against malaria.
Okay. That's my next on my list.
Natural.
What would you suggest? Can you think at the top of your head? Because I know
it's a tea. It's a tea, and I will need to look up the name, and I can give you the name.
But we'll put your details on the bottom, so if people want to contact you. Going back to HRT, so there's a friend of mine who's very alternative, very healthy. She's just turned 60. She looks amazing. She's fit, and she's a yoga teacher. And I was surprised, but the other day she lost her HRT tablets, and I thought, oh gosh, you're on HRT. She said, well, I take the natural remedy. I said, well, why do you do that? Because to me, again, going through a menopause is a natural progression of being a woman. You have your periods, you stop your periods, and so now for me, when I stopped bleeding, I was actually quite sad initially. I thought, oh God, I'm not a woman anymore. And then I thought, oh my God, I'm empowered. I'm free. And I went into that crone or hag or whatever horrible name they've given you. But I felt really in a good place now. And so when my friend said she's taken HRT, I said, why are you doing that? She said, well, because I still want to feel young and sexy and you know, I want to keep my libido up. And I thought, really? So I was quite surprised. So do you think that there is a good reason for people to take alternative healthy options as opposed to, you know, the traditional HRT?
I think that the ideal option for feeling young and a woman as you get older is to do the natural route, which would be really oversimplified. One, identify why your hormones are out of whack. Usually it's linked to detox. Then you want to supplement with some forms of the hormone replacement. So if somebody can't be bothered and they really just want to feel more sexy again, as long as it's not constant and it's not for years and years and years, of course you can take progesterone or you can, you know, take other forms of HRT. It's just not in my opinion, the option that's the best for your body. First, do the sensible things that optimize your health. And even something that is very hardcore, I know, but it's super effective. Something that anybody can do is go for a swim in the sea, especially in winter.
Yeah.
That shocks your body, but it's incredibly effective at rebalancing hormone levels and also helping your hormone receptors kind of shake off some of the toxicity that's affecting them.
And you were in the sea this morning?
I was in the sea this morning. It was -4 outside. Yeah, it was -4 outside.
Wow.
But afterwards, you just feel so great and so alive and so energized all day. And you feel warm, really warm. It's this tingly, yummy, warm feeling. So,
and it's funny because I haven't been in the UK. I've been in the Thailand Sea, but not in the China Sea, but not in the Atlantic Ocean. I normally do it, but I know when I've done it, like you said, you feel absolutely amazing, and you want to scream when you go in, don't you? Because you think, oh my God, I'm alive, and you're so grateful for everything around you. There's this feeling of gratitude. And you know you've done it, and your body's, you know, it's a good thing.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if this is true, but a very, very important cancer specialist once told me, really, you swim in the sea in winter in cold water? Well done you, because that's one of the most powerful things you can do by itself to protect yourself from breast cancer. I didn't know. I don't know the research behind it, but that's what he said.
And we just know it's right. And there's a lot of mainly women again that are doing this. You know, there's clubs all over the country, isn't there? All over the coast, Blue Tits and all sorts of various. Have you got a group name?
We are the Mermaids.
The Mermaids. Okay, with Blue Tits probably, but
brilliant. I think you're onto something there. My husband Matthew, his family, his whole family are from Guernsey, one of the Channel Islands, and over there they have, I believe it's the 3rd highest life expectancy in the world.
Yep.
Wow.
So both he's mid-50s now, and he had both his grandparents alive until just recently, who went on to long into their 90s. And you know, you're 5 minutes to the sea everywhere you look, fresh air. It's fascinating, and maybe more studies should be done about you know, things like that.
I mean, just one illustration. Most of us nowadays, because of the mass-produced food we eat, are minerally depleted. But seawater contains the exact spectrum of minerals we need in our body to be healthy. It contains more salts and more sodium than we need, but all the other minerals are present, and our skin absorbs them into our bodies when we swim. And we all need trace amounts of iodine, especially for example, for thyroid health, which is essential for energy. You don't even live more than 2 weeks if you don't have any thyroid hormones. Wow. And so by swimming in the sea, you know, a few times a week, you're just remineralizing your body naturally. And then in Guernsey, they probably spend a lot of time outdoors, so they have more natural sunshine. And natural sunshine on the skin without chemical sunscreen, so just with, I don't know, coconut oil or olive oil or, shea butter, synthesizes vitamin D in the cholesterol on your skin. And high vitamin D levels are associated with super longevity. So just those two things, swimming in the sea and being
amazing,
in the sun without sunblock.
Just simple things.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, we've got to wind down now because I think we're going up to nearly an hour, which I haven't planned, but there's so much to talk about.
Sorry, we covered so many topics there, didn't we?
Yeah, I know. It's been brilliant. Is there anything, Angela, that you would want to ask Danielle while she's still here, just before we close? Any other questions?
No, not really. I'm absolutely fascinated lately, the last year, I'd say maybe 2 years, with natural health and natural supplements, and I take all sorts of bits and pieces, but actually I'd really like to look at sort of actually having some testing done and actually seeing, which one of these I should be taking instead of taking 20 supplements a day. And
if you ever come down to Sussex, I would be delighted to test you. It's
I would love that, and I will. Yeah, that would be absolutely amazing.
We can sort something out after this chat. We can sort something out, and then it might actually be nice to have you back on. And once you've done the test and you've taken the supplements, and see how you feel.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'd love that. Yeah, I'd love that.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. And thanks for your time. Yeah, sorry for the hiccups with the dogs and the window, and when it went mute, that's because somebody's phoning me because I'm on my phone here. So we're not.
That's okay. No problems at all. I've got a house full here with dogs and all sorts.
Okay, it's just life, isn't it? It's just life. But thank you so much, and have a lovely sunny day. All right.
Thank you, Angela.
Bye bye now. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. If we stop recording.